the large city of Pontianak 4 years ago. And just like Santi, had little idea of what it was to be an orangutan. A slow learner, Melky is now the oldest in his class and uses his size to get his own way. But it's around dinner time where he earns his school bully title. But if Melky is ever to be released, he will have to know how to fend for himself. Already 7 years old, Melky is running out of time.
Melky is getting to an age in which he will have to learn faster. We need him to speed up the process of rehabilitation. We want him to spend more time foraging on the top of the trees.
If Melky doesn't change his ways and learn to be self-reliant, the team won't be able to release him, and he faces the rest of his life in a cage. Every day, there are new arrivals. While the other orangutans play in the forest, the rescued newcomers must stay inside until they have a clean bill of health.
In quarantine at the moment, we have 2 little babies. If there's anything that can put the rest of the population in danger, we basically make sure that they're free of those diseases before they can be introduced.
These 2 babies are Benita and Anjas.
Okay, Anjas.
Anjas was rescued from a life as a pet, and today will undergo a series of medical tests to make sure he's not a risk to the rest of the population.
Anjas is kind of a special case. He came to us from the pet trade, and for about 3 years he was owned by a couple near Pontianak.
Treated like a human baby, Anjas lived a life far removed from that of a wild orangutan. But despite all the attention, his human owner could have been killing him with kindness. He was bathed, clothed, and had an unhealthy human diet high in starchy rice, washed down with sweet tea.
Certainly we all care for the orangutans here, but in a different way, where we want them to exist in their natural habitat.
Now Anjas must have a full medical check under anesthetic to reveal any health problems caused by a life with humans. An examination reveals his captivity led to an injury to his foot.
Looks like he had a strangulating injury, maybe a string or something got wrapped around his foot, his toe, so he's unable to kind of straighten his form.
This could be a problem if he is to learn to climb trees.
This is what we're going to take some x-rays of, just to make sure there's no changes in his bones. X-ray.
His rich diet has left a worrying legacy of tooth decay.
He used to drink a lot of sweet tea, so sweet tea in the morning, and then he eat like the chocolate snacks.
But the biggest risk of captivity is disease. Orangutans share 97% of our DNA, and Anjas may have caught a human infection that could be deadly to the center's orangutan population.
Probably the most important testing that we do is for tuberculosis.
To test if Anjas harbors the deadly disease, they inject into his delicate eyelid skin an antigen that should show if he's been exposed to TB.
Looks a little odd, but it's probably the most sensitive area to gauge a reaction on an orangutan.
The other baby in quarantine is Benita. She's already had her test and is waiting on the results. Christine decides to give her some time outside of her cage.
While they're being monitored for their health, they don't get the chance to kind of experience the trees, so we try to take them to this area so that they can get a little practice. And mostly, the ones that come from the pet trade are unaware they're orangutans. They've never been in a tree.
Before arriving at the center, home for Benita was a mining camp and a life in chains. Now she must take the first steps to freedom and a life in the trees.
So I'm just using the porridge, kind of made it sticky, so that I can put it in the trees and kind of encourage her to be up there. But it's a long process. This is kind of a baby step.
The porridge does the trick, and she cautiously makes a move.
Bonita is definitely attached to humans. She needs that security a little bit, that contact. So she's not quite as outgoing as others, but she'll get there.
Finally, the instinct kicks in, and she's soon at home in the branches.
Feeling frisky. Oh, that one's not strong enough. It's another thing they have to learn.
But if Bonita is to join the others in baby school and start the lengthy process of learning how to live in the forests of Borneo, she will need to pass all of her health checks. Forest school, but have yet to master the skills of the wild. To spare them from a life behind bars, Carmela's team has undertaken a bold experiment.
Now this is the new stage. There is a whole new area of opportunities for us.
Using an excavator to dig a canal, in just a few months they carved an island nearly 15 acres in size, act as a stepping stone to freedom.
Rather than a caged orangutan, it's a caged forest.
If it works, the island will be a finishing school for big bruisers who still have more to learn, who need their independence.
Getting the island is almost like a dream coming true, you know?
Now, an army of volunteers are in the final stages of construction. Orangutans rarely swim, but as a precaution, they're installing an electrified perimeter fence.
We're cementing in the posts today, which are going to be for the electric fence, one extra deterrent to keep the orangutan on the island. The logistics of everything out here has been so difficult because of the size of the island and that it's not easy access to get here. Everything we've had to carry over by hand, literally carrying over a log.
So we're just starting to put the electric wire around. Obviously we've got to get it all the way around in the circuit of the island. We're going to put 3 different lines on. So that makes about 3.6 kilometres we've got to go. And then when we're ready we can put the energizer on and electrify the wire.
With over 2 miles of wire to go, the volunteers need to get a move on, as the island has already caught the eye of a couple of escapees from forest school.
There are a couple of orangutans from the forest school. It's actually Bunga and Amin. Both of them are particularly naughty, and they are the ones that always leave the group and they want to explore further. That's why actually they are potential candidates to go on this island, because once they are on the island, there's no way for them to escape, and they are basically here on their own. It's fine. There's quite enough water now. They are not going to be able to cross. Okay, let's go, because they are calling them, so they know about it.
Carmela wants to have the island safely, but ready for the more difficult orangutans as soon as possible. She's all too aware of what a life in captivity means.
Hi, big boy. Hey. This is Monte. This is our biggest orangutan. Only males have tick pads. Basically, the tick pads is the way that they show their dominance. So Monte, he is really the king of our center. He's the biggest, the strongest, and he's also very handsome. If I was a female orangutan, I would probably fall for him.
Monte was rescued 4 years ago. Since he was a baby, he was kept in a cage so small he couldn't stand up. And as a result, his legs have been permanently damaged.
Monte had spent in captivity his whole life, probably 13 to 15 years. His legs didn't function properly. I remember he was moved in the cage and his legs were trembling.
Aged nearly 20, he's too old to learn the ways of the forest. Even here at the center, Monte has to be kept in a large cage for the safety of those caring for him. Adult orangutans can be up to 7 times stronger than a human.
This orangutan with just one hand will just like probably break my neck, basically, you know. He's very, very strong. So, you know, we cannot just take him from the hand and take him to the forest like we do with the juveniles or the babies, you know. Unfortunately, we don't think that he will be a candidate to be released into the wild. He's never been in a forest. So I do not think that he will be able to find food. He wouldn't be able to survive. There's never a cage big enough, you know, for an orangutan, but we are hoping that we can actually give Monte a much better life.
For Monte, rescue came far too late. But the team has recently recovered another fully grown male they called Caliba, who is now ready to be released to a new forest home.
Caliba is now at the quarantine. I want to go and have a look very quietly. I don't want to disturb him because tonight he's going to have a long journey all the way to the release site. But I just want to check on his condition.
Caliba has been kept in isolation at the center for 2 months, while the team checked he's disease-free and searched for a safe habitat for him. He was rescued from an area nearby that used to be forest, but had been almost completely cleared for farmland. In situations like this, due to loss of habitat, orangutans and humans often come into conflict, competing for space and food. If the rescue team don't anesthetize and remove the orangutan from that environment, it stands little chance of survival. As Caliba is from the wild and knows how to survive, he doesn't need rehabilitation, just a new forest to call home. Carmela has found a release site, but it takes 12 hours to get there, and the relocation of a fully grown male can be dangerous.
He's obviously a very strong orangutan. There's always a risk when we handle orangutans this big, potentially aggressive as well. We always have to be very careful.
For the safety of Caliba and the team, they will wait until the cool of night to undertake the risky operation. It's late afternoon, and vet Christine has just received some good news about one of their new babies, Bonita.
Bonita's been in quarantine for about 7 weeks. It's about time for her to move on. She passes quarantine.
After a lifetime surrounded by humans, Bonita must now begin to discover how to be an orangutan at baby school.
Hello. Rocky and Brittany.
Bonita is introduced to the other babies. It's the first time she comes face to face with her classmates.
See, she's pretty clingy with the babysitter now. I think she's curious. That's a good indicator that she's She'll take a little bit of time, but I think she'll get used to everybody and start climbing